Battle of buying versus renting. Are you actually making a good investment by buying a condo or house? And are you really throwing money away by renting? Hey, my name is Cash. I've been a real estate agent for over 10 years here in Jersey City, New Jersey. I help first-time buyers just like you make educated decisions on whether to buy or rent. First, let's consider this exercise in two different lenses, from an investment point of view as well as on the cost side. Most important assumptions, first of all, the timeline. Let's consider a 5-year investment. Now, why 5 years? Because that's on average how long you might decide to get your first property before you decide to upgrade or move into the suburbs. Second assumption is let's take an average 1-bedroom as your entry-level condo to buy, which is gonna run you around $600,000. $120,000 down, that's 6.5% interest rate for 30 years. You're looking at about $4,000 a month towards your property budget. That includes your interest, principal, property taxes, and HOA. Let's compare that to an average 1-bedroom rental in the area. That's gonna run you around $3,500 per month, around $500 per month less in your monthly budget. Remember that number because that's gonna be important when we do our investment return calculations. Let's run the numbers on your investment returns. On the buy side, your $600,000 property grows at around 3% per year, which has been the average rate of return for real estate appreciation in the area. So after 5 years, your condo is going to go to about $696,000. However, that is not your profit. We need to deduct the $480,000 in mortgage balance you had. After 5 years, that dropped to $449,000. On top of that, it's crucial to account for the closing costs of real estate transaction. When you bought, you had around 2% in closing costs, which is $12,000. When you sold, you had around 5% in closing costs, which equates to around $35,000. So that's an additional $47,000 you need to deduct to calculate your returns. If you take your $695,000 price, you deduct the $47,000 in closing costs, the loan balance of $449,000, you'll net nearly $200,000. So your investment grew from $120,000 to nearly $200,000 after 5 years. That's a rate of return of 10.7%. Now let's look at the rental side. Where is the investment on the rental side? Well, you have $120,000 saved up that you used as down payment when you bought a property. If you're renting, you actually have that available money to invest into the stock market or an index fund that returns at around 10% year over year. In that scenario, your $120,000 grows to $193,000. You might be saying, well, the buy side is better because we made $200,000. Not really, because when you bought, you had a $4,000 per month cost for interest, principal, property taxes, HOA. However, equivalent rental was only $3,500. That's $500 in extra cash flow that you have every month to now invest into the stock market as well. That $500 in cash flow invested into the stock market at 10% after 5 years grows to $38,000. If you add up $193,000 plus $38,000, your investment's actually at $232,000. 14% rate of return compared to the 10.7% return when you bought the property. So you're actually 3.5% better renting than owning in this scenario. Now that we looked at the investment side, let's switch lenses and look at the cost side of this equation. You're never going to own your property outright without any expenses. You're going to have loan interest, your property taxes, as well as your HOA. And those costs after 5 years total $233,000. You made $200,000 on the appreciation of your property, but you lost $233,000 in expenses that are sunk. You're not going to get that back. So net, you're down $33,000 by owning this property. On the rental side, your sunk cost is just your monthly rent. The first year, you're going to spend $42,000 in rent. And let's assume you have a 3% increase year over year because your landlord is going to be raising your rent. After 5 years, you'd spend nearly $220,000. You made $232,000 on your investment and end up spending $220,000 on the cost of rent. Net, you're up $12,000 after 5 years. So minus $33,000 down when you bought a property versus up $12,000 by renting. So if you're looking at a 5-year time horizon or less, and in the current market, it actually makes sense to rent versus own. Of course, there's a lot of variables here as well. We looked at a $600,000 condo at 6.5% interest rate Even if there's a 1% decrease in interest rate, you end up saving $40,000 in interest over 5 years. Then both investments become nearly identical. If you're still weighing your options of renting or buying, you might also want to look at some of the subjective things. Number one is going to be your flexibility. I'm going to give this to the rental side because you have the flexibility to get up and go, find another rental, move across the state. Number two, the stability. Your landlord could raise the price. They might decide to sell. Then you're forced to find a different rental. So I'm going to give this to the buy side. Number three is liquidity. This, I'll give it to the rental side. You have $120,000 tied up into a property in our example. That you have available if you were to rent. Number four, discipline. I'm going to give this to the buy side because you're forced to put that down payment into a house, as well as every month, part of your mortgage goes to paying down the principal. So that is a way of forced savings. Now, if you don't have that discipline on the rental side, you could be tempted to spend it on discretionary items and ruin your returns. Number five is leverage. Well, I'm going to give a check to both sides. On the buy side, you get to participate on the appreciation of a $600,000 property with just $120,000 down. On the rental side, you have $120,000 you can put into stock market and have a margin account for leverage to invest in. But of course, that's a lot riskier. Number six is tax benefits. I'm going to give this to owning a property because you can write off your property taxes, your mortgage interest, and if you convert it to an investment property down the line, you have additional benefits there as well. Hopefully you got a more complete picture on how to analyze how to run the numbers, as well as look at the subjective side to decide whether it's better to buy or rent. If someone's in your family nagging you to go buy a property because you're throwing money away on rent, show them this video on why it might actually make sense to rent in the near term. I'll see you on the next one.